Franz Wagner is back, and the Orlando Magic find their groove. How the Magic took down the Miami Heat and look like themselves. It's time for Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is January 22nd, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, Franz Wagner is back. Nature is healing. Everyone is happy. The Orlando Magic are back for at least one night. We'll talk about how the Magic finally got themselves healthy and felt whole again. We'll get to that. Plus, why the pressure is on for the Orlando Magic over the next couple of weeks. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I'm pretty sure I've sat here, and if I haven't, let me express this now. We have dealt with a lot over the last 3 weeks. We have dealt with a lot, and we've been watching a Magic team that has been playing with one arm tied behind its back. Not that that's an excuse. Not that that's to say that this team wasn't capable of playing better than they have over the last 3 weeks, but this is a team that was not whole. And even on this road trip that we were on, and I hope I expressed this on the road trip because I felt it deep in my bones, that this team wasn't very far from being what they were in November and parts of December. That it wasn't going to take very much for the Magic to get back on their feet. That it wasn't going to take very much for this team to be what we know they can be, to reach their full potential. That really what they were missing was health. And really what they were missing was Franz Wagner. Their number 2 guy, their 1B, whatever you want to call him. The Magic don't have many players like Franz Wagner. It's Paolo and Franz. Let's be real. And maybe that is a huge weakness that the Magic need to address. Not one they're likely to address at the deadline, mind you, but one that is something of a concern. That the Magic have 2 A guys and a bunch of B guys who won't be A guys, perhaps. You know, maybe what we learned over the last 3 weeks is Jalen Suggs is just going to kind of be a very high-level role player and not someone that can elevate his game to be a 20-point scorer for stretches when the Magic need them. Again, maybe we don't know that because he was so sick for a good chunk of the last 3 weeks. Getting Franz Wagner back really did feel like it would boost this team. And honestly, let's be real as well. We haven't seen this team fully healthy since October 31st. 4 games into the season when Markelle Fultz sat out that game in Utah against the Utah Jazz. We have not seen what we all envisioned this Magic team to be. And while, yes, those first 4 games had their struggles, we could clearly see the defensive potential of that group. And this team, this Magic team, has built that defensive identity. They've continued to grow and develop, but it was missing something. And so Sunday night against the Miami Heat, Franz Wagner is back for the first time in 8 games. Wendell Carter and Markelle Fultz are back in the starting lineup since their returns over the last 3 weeks. For the first time since October 31st, the Magic's opening night starting lineup was back on the floor together. And it just felt like this team, yes, without Gary Harris, but it felt like this team was finally whole again. We finally saw the Orlando Magic as they were intended to be. And, you expect it when you get a player of that caliber back. It was an immediate boost. It was an immediate lift. The Magic defeat the Miami Heat 105-87. You can see the score right over there. I can't point correctly. Somewhere over there. The Magic defeat the Heat 105-87, run them out of the gym. And they do it with the third best defensive performance of the season. Let me make sure I have this number right. I believe it was the sixth time, I believe, that they held an opponent under 100 points per 100 possessions. The first time they did so since December 8th. The two best defensive performances of the season, opening night against Houston Rockets, December 8th against the Detroit Pistons. To say the least, this one, the third best defensive performance of the season by defensive rating, is by far the most impressive, even though the Heat are struggling right now. The Magic really felt like they got their groove back. And while I don't think anyone was willing to say, okay, we got our groove back, but really it was about their defense. Their defense led the way, and that was everything for this team. Are the Magic going to hold opponents to 37.5% shooting, 12 for 37 from three? No. The Magic still turned the ball over 14 times, but so much of what the Magic did on Sunday night is exactly who they are. Is exactly their identity. It was the extreme length and size on the perimeter, just deflecting and stopping everything in front of them. It was the forcing turnovers, 18 for 29 points. It was the ability to control the paint and win the paint heavily. Everyone on the Magic acknowledges the offense is going to come. And look, if Franz Wagner scored 19 points, it took him until the third quarter to really get going. But you could tell immediately how much of an impact he can make. You could tell immediately how just the machine worked so much better. This is who the Magic are. This is what the Magic are about. They are a team that defends at a high level. They are a team that gets after you, that forces turnovers, that disrupts you, that plays with incomparable energy and is able to move and kick and drive at weird sizes on the offensive end. It's been a while since we've seen this team play this freely. And maybe it's because things were coming relatively easy. I mean, I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, because Miami did some good things. I don't want to take away anything from Miami. I mean, Orlando only shot 9 for 28 from three. They got to the line 28 times, which is, again, Magic basketball. Only 47.4% shooting. It wasn't like the Magic completely ran away with things. They just slowly choked out the Heat in the way that the Heat usually slowly choke out their opponents. This is Magic basketball. This is what this team is about. And while Franz wasn't quite Franz yet, we're going to go through the box score here in a minute. We'll talk more about his game in a minute. Just his presence, just his energy, just having that starting group together for the first time since October 31st, that went such a long way. There's obviously a long way to go, and there's a lot more to improve. But really, for the first time in 3 weeks, everything didn't feel like an uphill battle. Everything didn't feel like it was a struggle, that it was difficult. It didn't feel like it didn't feel like the Magic had to be perfect. They could make some mistakes. They could learn. They could grow in game. It just felt like everyone finally was in the role they were suited to play. And this team made freaking sense, for lack of a better way to phrase it. This was a long time coming, and this was something the Magic haven't had in such a long time. it finally felt like this is the team we all knew we could be, that they could be. This is the team that they built in the summer, that they banked on in the summer. A team we haven't really seen since the early days of the season. And even then, the starting group struggled early in the season, but they won their minutes 47-30, about 18 minutes in this game. They're at 97 minutes for the season. They have a +6 net rating, and they're killing teams defensively. This is what we envisioned. This is what we imagined when the Magic came together this year. And finally, at the midpoint of the season, we're finally seeing it. We'll go through the box score. We'll talk about what Franz was able to do in this one. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at LinkedIn. At the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Look, LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn also knows that the small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's with 2 N's, Locked On NBA. To post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Don't forget to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts like me of the Locked On Network and our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to this first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel today. We're going to go through the box score here first. I'm going to talk about some bigger picture issues in our final segment of the show. So let's go through the box scores. The Orlando Magic defeat the Miami Heat 105-87. And we talked in that first segment about the feeling of Franz being back. And you know, I'm not going to lie. I looked at this team while we were on the road trip. We saw the impact that Wendell Carter made when he came back. We begin to see the impact that Markelle Fultz can make. We'll get to them in a minute. But it always really looked like getting Franz back would be a huge difference maker for this team. That getting Franz Wagner back, getting another 20-point per game scorer, getting another downhill off the dribble attacker, that is what this team was missing. Like Paolo just had to do so much. He had such a huge creation burden that just another 3-level threat in Franz Wagner was going to be a big, big piece of this puzzle. And look, early on in the game, he had to get his bearings on him. You know, he had to figure out, okay, what can I do? What am I confident doing? And it was going to be a slow process to get him up there, but you could already see how he made life easier for everyone else. How just his presence, just his smarts, just his basketball IQ makes everyone's job just a little bit easier and just keeps the defense a little bit more attentive to someone other than Paolo Banchero. In the end, Franz Wagner finished with 19 points, 6 for 13 shooting, 2 for 5 from 3, 5 for 5 from the foul line, 5 assists just as impressively. It was a really, really strong game. He had 14 points, 7 in each the third and the fourth quarter, so 14 points in the second half. And that's when you really started to see Franz get more confident. You started to see him get downhill, try some deceleration moves, try to kind of keep the defense off balance, do those flip shots that he likes to do. He had one where he literally just got stopped on the ground and he just flipped the ball up and it went in. And you could kind of see the sheepish grin on his face that I did not deserve to make that one. Franz, in that second half especially, just looked like he didn't miss a beat. Like the confidence was already back. And again, You could see hints of it through the first half, but he was just trying to fit in and find his way. Second half, he was himself. And so, it's not clear if Franz is going to play in Monday's game. 27-50 in this game. He played 27-50 in this game. Jamal Mosley said, it continues to be a discussion to see how he's feeling. Whether he plays Monday against Cleveland, that's a no travel back-to-back. That it'll be back at the Kia Center. It's going to be about continue to see how he feels. Magic, kind of did quick spurts with him in the first half. And then the second half felt like just normal rotation for him. Again, his minutes may be a little bit lessened, but it felt like a normal rotation for him. And honestly, that's big because Paolo kind of got an easier night too. He only played 31-11. We'll get to Paolo's game here in a minute. But just having Franz back, you could just see the impact, how he just kind of pushes in. Let's talk then about the other two guys that have just come back and what they added as they return to the starting lineup. I want to start with Wendell Carter because I loved this game from Wendell Carter. Another big scoring game. He had 17 points, 7 for 11 shooting, 1 for 3 from deep, 9 rebounds. Really, 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 really solid game from Wendell Carter. Just frankly, just a really strong game from Dell. He just gets it. He knows what he's doing. And what I really like about the way Wendell Carter plays and the way Wendell Carter played in this game, the Magic matched his minutes with Bam Adebayo. Literally, if Bam came out of the game, Wendell came out of the game. When Bam went to the table, Wendell, ran sometimes too slowly, but ran to the table to get back in the game. And look, Bam Adebayo had a nice game, 22 points, 11 rebounds, 6 offensive rebounds, 7 assists. When they were matched one-on-one, Wendell Carter did a really good job just kind of keeping him on the perimeter. A lot of those Bam Adebayo scored his fair number of second chance points and tip-ins. A lot of that because Wendell had to go over and help defend the paint. But look, this is what we expected from Wendell Carter. Early in the year, the last time we saw the starting group, Wendell couldn't score at all. Now that jumper looks fresh. Now he's working really well around the basket. He's confident. He is playing like we expected him to play before the season and not the struggle that we saw. And we're going to talk about the ticking clock here in just a moment. Bigger picture issue as we get into the kind of dying weeks before the trade deadline. Wendell Carter's going to be in the center of a lot of those discussions. This is the kind of game, though, that makes you understand why Wendell Carter is so important to this team and why the Magic should be hesitant to give him up. Goga Bitadze is not having a game like this. I'm sorry. I like Goga too, but Wendell Carter is really, really good. And when he's healthy like this, he's really, really good. Markelle Fultz also continues to have really nice games. I know people are very, very low on Markelle Fultz right now. But this was a really strong game from him. 12 points, 6 for 8 shooting, 4 assists. Did have 2 steals, did have 2 blocks. Really got downhill, was slithery and effective around the basket. I know the jumper isn't there yet. Maybe it won't be there this year. There's certainly a regression there. And again, we'll talk about the ticking clock here in a minute. But I really liked how Markelle worked around the basket. Loved his defense. He was a menace, staying in passing lanes, being a pest off the ball, crashing in, helping, just being part of the chaos that is Magic defense. They're so big. A lot of their guys are just so strong and tough to move. They really get in your face and get in your grill. And Markelle Fultz is a big part of that. A really nice game. And Markelle continues to put together some really nice games, understanding there are some shortcomings that he obviously has to overcome. Paolo Banchero had a really nice game too. 20 points, 7 for 14 shooting, 3 for 5 from deep, 10 rebounds for him. The Heat did a really good job showing traps as he was trying to get to the perimeter, get to the wing. They wouldn't let the switch happen because they were just showing that trap. And, Jimmy Butler had the call on Paolo. He recovered really well. Paolo was still able to get to his spots. And I think the Magic did a good job when they got traps, getting him the ball in positions to score and setting him up. And honestly, this is why I think having Franz back and having Markelle back and getting them back into the starting lineup is so important. Paolo can create a shot for himself, and he needs to continue to do that. But he also needs help. He also needs a diet of shots that are created for him. And that's kind of the thing. That's obviously been the thing that's been missing for him for the last month and a half, 2 months. So again, I love that they were able to kind of ease his minutes a little bit. He played only 31 minutes in this game. Again, that's still a lot, but the Magic were able to bring their full bench unit in, feel very comfortable with that full 5-man unit, go 10-man rotation. It's little things like that are big in the long run. And again, Paolo was able to get his numbers. He was able to still score, able to still be effective in a number of ways. Just easing that burden is going to be so big for him. Again, just create some shots for him as much as he has to create shots for himself. I mean, that's kind of the big thing here. Jalen Suggs completes the quintet with all in double figures. 4 for 11 shooting, 1 for 6 from 3. Not his best shooting game. Huge pest defensively. I thought he did a really good job on Tyler Hero. Hero 12 points, 4 for 14 shooting, excuse me. Suggs chased him around really well. Got caught on a few screens here and there, but just bugged the heck out of him. There was a few, he was getting his hand on a couple balls. He had a couple deflections. He was hounding Tyler Hero. If Hero was playing point, Suggs was picking up full court. Again, this game was about the defense. The Magic's defense was incredible in this game. 3rd best defensive rating of the season. Suggs is a big part of that, just disrupting the Heat completely. Not a lot off the bench for the Magic. 8 points for Mo Wagner back in the rotation. 5 points for Cole Anthony. 6 points for Jonathan Isaac. 6 points for Anthony Black. Again, not the biggest bench contributions. Cole Anthony did pull up a little bit lame with the ankle injury, but Jamal Mosley said after the game that he should be fine, whether he plays Monday night or not. We will see very, very soon. The Orlando Magic defeat the Miami Heat 105-87. Now that the Orlando Magic are wholly healthy, the clock is ticking for them to prove that this is the group that the Magic should finish the season with. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at BetterHelp. Everyone says do your new me, but who's actually doing the work to create a new me? Well, maybe you don't actually need to make a new me. Don't need to go that far. You need to better understand who you are to begin with. That's what people try to do with New Year's resolutions, but it's hard to do it on your own. And that's why therapy can be such a big help to expand what you're already doing right and to make a better year in 2024. I have done therapy for a good chunk of my life. It has always helped me kind of manage and deal with emotions and find new ways to approach problems. It just gives me, therapy is literally just gives me a helpful ear, someone who's in my corner, will challenge me when I need to be challenged, but affirm me when I need to be affirmed. And we all need a cheerleader, someone who's a willing listener, and someone who can give some advice, some suggestions, some perspective to help us lead better lives. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try today. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA today. Today's podcast is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. We are officially in conference championship season of the NFL. The Chiefs and the Ravens, the 49ers and the Lions. See, that's what I get for paying attention. And the best way to get in on the action is with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. That's the best way to find popular parlays, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and make your first bet a touchdown today. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. There is no denying where we're at, though. As nice as this win feels, and it does feel nice. I mean, look, beating the Heat's a big deal. It keeps alive the chance for the Magic to win the season series, which could become important as the standings get tighter. The win for the Magic keeps them 2.5 games ahead of the Bulls for for 8th in the East. It puts them a game back of the Pacers for 7th in the East, or for actually 6th in the East, a game back of the Pacers and the Heat. The Magic are now 3.5 games back of the Cavs for 4th, so maybe that's a little bit more of a pipe dream at this point, but the Magic are still very much in this playoff race. And, we've seen this team take a bit of a tumble down the standings. Again, no denying that. At the end of the day, and I know I've led this charge, at the end of the day, we're always thinking about April. We're always thinking about what's going to work in the playoffs and what is this team going to do when they reach the postseason, not if they reach the postseason at this point. I mean, if we want to be real, the Magic are 5.5 games from missing the postseason entirely. They're 4.5 games from 10th. Barring a complete collapse, this team is going to be playing postseason basketball. It's going to accomplish at least that goal. Now, obviously, I think we want to be in the 7-8 game at this point. We would love to host that 7-8 game. We'd love to be the 6th seed and skip this entirely. Those goals are still very much in front of the Magic. And what we saw over the last 2 months, month and a half now, is that maybe the Magic do need a little bit more. What we haven't seen, though, is this team at full health, is to see what this team looks like when all the pieces of the puzzle are there. And again, maybe that's the reason to think about making moves and think about changing things. But at the end of the day, we still don't really know what we have or how much this team has grown. We've seen pieces and bits, but we haven't seen the puzzle come together. And if there's a reason for the Magic to stay patient and think about staying pat, it's this. And a game like Sunday night makes you really think maybe they have enough. Maybe they have enough to climb to the 6th seed or be a 5 seed. Maybe they already have what they need to accomplish this season. I have been a firm believer, even when the Magic were struggling, even when it looked like they might be back at 500 very, very soon. I'm a firm believer, and I will continue to repeat this. The trade deadline is not about saving the season. Where the Magic end up this season is not important. What matters is adding a player that not only helps the team win now, but win 2 to 3 years down the road. And the question is there something out there now that is worth the price that gets you there? And I think the answer is we don't know. The problem, though, is the clock is always ticking. The problem is we are now 8 games away from the trade deadline. The Magic play Monday night against Cleveland. They play Memphis. They play Memphis on Friday. They play Phoenix on Sunday. Then they start a 5-game road trip. And I believe that road trip, if I have it correctly, is at Dallas, at San Antonio, at Minnesota, at Detroit, at Miami, February 6th. Those are the 8 games remaining until the NBA trade deadline. The Magic play the San Antonio Spurs at the Kia Center the night of February 8th after the trade deadline. Again, that is a game the Magic must win to kind of just keep their record strong. And again, the Magic have the easiest schedule in the league the rest of the season by opponent win percentage, on the back of playing the Pistons 3 more times, the Hornets, I believe, 3 more times, the Wizards 2 more times, the Wizards 1 more time, the Spurs twice, the Grizzlies twice. The Magic and the Blazers 1 more time. The Magic still have a lot of games remaining against the worst teams in the league. All those games are must wins. That's why the Magic have the easiest schedule in the league remaining. And then they have an 8-game homestand after the All-Star break. All of that might make the Magic front office feel we don't need to make a move to fix things immediately. It's going to fix itself with health. And again, Sunday's game is a great example of that. Sunday's game was a great example to say, okay, there is something here. There is something we can build on. There is something that can grow before the end of the season and put us in a position to be competitive, to win, to put us in a position to get where we want to go, to catch some of these teams, to get the 6 seed, to host the 7-8 game of the play-in tournament. All of that's still out there. The question then is, what is best for this team long-term? And that's what a lot of guys have to prove. We are getting ready to start our trade deadline tour here on Locked On Magic. There'll be more details about that on Wednesday's episode of Locked On Magic, but we know that Magic should be aggressive and should be looking for ways to improve this roster. But you look at what Wendell Carter did, and it's like, how are what's out there that's going to be an upgrade over that? Is that worth giving up? We see how, even with how limited Markelle can be and knowing that he will be a free agent, how big Markelle Fultz could be for this team with his defense and his size and his ability to get downhill into the paint. Frankly, at this point, and this is the sad part of all the injuries the Magic have faced, we don't even really know what we have. We know this team can be great defensively, but we haven't seen the starters play enough together. They've only played 97 minutes together. And again, Sunday, everything just suddenly made sense. That this Magic team, Markelle Fultz said after the game, this team, when they're healthy, is pretty good. It's like really good. And so the question is, how confident are the Magic that they are that good, that they are good enough at this point to accomplish their goals, not just for this season, but for the next 2 to 3 years? Is there a move out there that very much improves this team in the short and the long term? And that's what so many of these guys have to prove. That's what this team has to prove. If this team wants to convince Jeff Weltman in the front office to stand pat, they've got 8 games to do it. Markelle Fultz has 8 games to prove that there's not a better point guard out there for them. Wendell Carter has 8 games to prove that he is vital and important to this team and that the Magic shouldn't even entertain trading him. And again, I think that is certainly there. They have 8 games. And again, it's an unfair deadline. And it's not even a real deadline. It's probably not even a deadline that this group is necessarily thinking about because they got too much else to worry about. But they've got 8 games to figure this out, to prove themselves. Or else the Magic are going to do something to ensure that they accomplish their goals this season and set themselves up for the future. And maybe there is nothing any of them can do. That is certainly possible too. But the clock is ticking on this group, just like it's ticking everywhere. And this is the pressure that comes from being in a playoff chase. That is the pressure that they will feel every year around this time moving forward. Because that winning window is open. The Magic are trying to win games. They're trying to compete for playoff spots. We are looking at the standings almost every day to say, oh, that's how this team is doing. That's how this group is doing. That's how this team can be. This is where this team can climb. This is who we're warding off. We're all looking at it. Everyone there knows how they're doing too. And so the clock is always ticking to be better. And now that the Magic finally are fully healthy, are almost wholly healthy, now we have 8 games to figure out how good this group is. And we're going to learn how good this group is in a way we haven't been able to this point in the season, as late as it is. We're going to learn a lot about the Magic in the next 8 games. As tough as they are, we're going to learn a lot. And it's going to be a huge challenge for this team. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google+, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of them podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can also check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/@LockedOnMagic. If you have not done so already, you can see my smiling face. If you're listening on the pod, if you're tired of seeing my smiling face, you can also listen to me in podcast form as well. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. I'll be naming the first half MVP of the season. I think you can guess who that'll be. We'll also be doing 5 questions looking ahead to the third quarter of the season. We'll do some more mid-season review stuff during the next couple of days as the Magic get a little bit of break. They play Monday against Cleveland, then they don't play again until Friday against Memphis. So we get nice 3 days off to get ready for that. You can also check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. I plan to go deeper into the most used lineups for the Orlando Magic coming up probably tomorrow. I'll do that review. You can only find that on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. And thank you all once again for your support. Don't forget to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Get the latest from sports around the nation, including the NFL playoffs and the NBA on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel. Check that out today. On our next episode of Locked On Magic, we'll review the Orlando Magic's game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we'll see if the Magic can do this again on Monday in a big game. Again, the teams you have to beat for the Magic: Cavs, Knicks, Pacers, Heat. Those are the 4 teams that the Magic do have to beat and do have to separate themselves with. Beating the Heat is a big deal. They're 2-1 in that season series. Magic and Cavs right now are tied 1-1. I think this is their last game against Cleveland. So winner Monday wins that season series. It might be important. It might not be. We'll see Indiana in Orlando only one more time. That comes up later in the season. Obviously a very different Pacers team. The Magic are up 2-1 on the Knicks. They'll welcome New York, I believe, later in February. So a lot of big games coming up here. Monday's game against the Cavs, absolutely a huge one. They're 3.5 back. You win that, you're now 2.5 back. You're closing in on Miami and Indiana for 6. The Magic got to get themselves in this race. And like I've been saying all year long, the Magic schedule sets up after the All-Star break to pick up at least 1 seed line. So as long as they're in contact, as long as they're in touch with some of these teams, the Magic, I think, do have a very, very good chance to climb a seed line. They've obviously taken a hit here over the last couple of weeks. Now that they're fully healthy, we see what they're capable of doing. I do think the Magic have the ability to climb a seed line. So yeah, we are looking at the standings a little bit closer now that we're at the midpoint of the season. Monday's game is a big one. So come to the Kia Center, be loud. It's Brazil night. Be loud. Let's see what the Magic can do against a very, very good Cavs team that's won 7 in a row. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic. This has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.